In this video, we're going to be discussing different type of plumbing fixtures. And so this first one is just introduction, looking at the different types of plumbing fixtures that you find in both residential or commercial buildings. What we would cover in this first section is being able to identify and describe the various materials used in making plumbing fixtures, identify and describe common bathroom fixtures, water closets, which is toilets, identify and describe common kitchen fixtures, identify and describe common plumbing fixtures that you may find in other things like commercial buildings. And so we're going to identify the most common installed fixtures and appliances that's found in plumbing. We would take a tour throughout the building to see how many different ones we can locate. So the following list of basic principles are stated in the National Standard Plumbing Code, and these are the beginning of the principles and what we will find in the code. Number one, principle one, all occupied premises shall have potable water, and potable water is drinkable water. So if it's where common areas or buildings where people will reside, that is public or private. If it's going to be used for occupancy meaning that it must have potable water. Principle two, adequate water requirements. 3, hot water required. 4, water conservation, meaning that the fixtures that we will use that will consume water, use water, must be able to conserve water. That, in other words, follow the regulations that is set by the standards. 5, safety devices. For example, some commercial buildings will have a standard that the temperature of the water that you wash your hands with will have a maximum temperature that will be controlled. In other words, is that somebody would not stick their hands under the sink and get scalded from hot temperatures or high temperatures. Number 6, principle 6 is use public sewer where available. Of course, there could be septic systems that doesn't use a public water, but if there's any way to do it, yes, the city or the national codes will require to tie into a sewer system. And 6, required plumbing fixtures. 8 would be drainage systems. 9, durable materials and good workmanship. That's why these codes are there for a reason, because before modern times, the way to get rid of waste was a lot of times just dumping it into the streets, and it caused all different types of illnesses, sicknesses, plagues to come on the people because they didn't realize that the waste was causing harm. I guess they, of course, didn't have the technology, but of course the smell and things, people got used to it. Number nine principle, durable materials for good workmanship. 10 is fixture traps, and that's to keep from sewer gas coming back in. 11, trap seals shall be protected. 9, exhaust foul airs to outdoors. That's what vent pipes are for. And also, of course, for bathrooms, using ventilation systems like exhaust systems to get rid of the odors that's from bathrooms and other areas. 13, test the plumbing system. 14, exclude certain substances from the plumbing systems. And 15, prevent contamination. 16 is light and ventilation. Good a point here. Bathrooms must have some type of ventilation system, must have. Either it must have a window that can open up or a exhaust fan. And of course, having light in that space too. 17, individual sewage disposal systems. 18 is prevent sewer flooding. Proper maintenance is 19. 20 is fixtures shall be accessible. 21, structural safety. And 22, protect ground and surface water. Protect ground and surface water. Now, there's many different materials used. Virtuous China is one material they use. They use that in sinks or toilets. Porcelain or enamel is another. Cast iron. That is usually cast iron used for waste drain vents. It's very durable, lasts for years. Sheet steel, stainless steel, plastics, all these can be materials found in plumbing systems. Basic types of bathroom fixtures. Bathroom fixtures are available in a variety of styles. Fixtures made from commercial installations are designed to withstand heavier use than fixtures for residential. And yes, it is heavier duty because it's constant use. A toilet in a commercial building will have use throughout the day by multiple times. So it must be able to handle that. So we will never put a residential toilet in a commercial application. For public buildings to meet standards of the American with Disabilities, the ADA of 1990, it must be ADA compliant. So that's the second requirement for commercial buildings. Besides that, it's built heavier and able to withstand many use, but it also must meet the ADA compliant. In other words, it needs to be handicap accessible. The National Standards Institute, and that's another organization that we find. Matter of fact, there's more than one organizations that deal with the plumbing industry that set the standards and regulations of how things are used and installed. But the American National Standard Institute, it sets forth similar guidelines for accessibility and design. So it would be ADA compliant, it would be ANSI compliant also. This is something you can find in the kitchen, of course, a double compartment sink. A sink is basically any shallow, flat bottom basin that uses for food preparation and dishwashing. Okay, they of course it don't have to be double. There's single. They make them all different designs now. Under the ones that sit on top of the counter, ones that recessed into the counter. But they use stainless steel because stainless steel is a material that is extremely durable. The second thing, stainless steel, it doesn't harbor bacteria and viruses like other materials will. So in other words, if there's bacteria on stainless steel, it's not going to live very long compared to wood. Wood can hold it for extremely long periods of time and cause it to grow and develop and go further, while stainless steel is a material that resists the growth of bacteria and viruses. So here's our different types of sinks and lavatories. And it could be wall hung, that's a porcelain base, or it can be under counter, it can be self-rimming. Basically, self-rimming is sitting on top of the countertop, built in with a rim. But of course, it could be a pedestal sink also. But these are some of the sinks that you will find on buildings. Commercial buildings, a lot of times will have wall hung sinks that that doesn't have a base underneath it. One of the reasons is because it need to have access for wheelchairs. And to get close enough to wash your hands, having a base there is pushing far away from the sink. This is a submittal sheet to give you all the dimensions and information about a sink. And when you're ready to install something, that's one thing you will always look at, because before you install it, you need to know everything about that fixture. This gives you the rough end information. The rough end is that if you need to cut an opening in, or where to install it, or where to hang it, it will give you that information also. This is a way to support a wall hung sink that has the supports behind the wall, and it is a structural thing that is there that you don't see if you the consumer, but the plumber will install this before they put the drywall in. So again, it's heavy duty. It will be able to support somebody even sitting on the sink, even though the one at your house will not do that. It will not do that. It will not be able to support that weight. Again, we talked about ADA compliant. You can see what I was explaining about having a wheelchair, being able to get close enough that they will put wall hung on it. But even the waste pipe coming out of the sink, the drain, it will be coated with some type of protection, either foam padding or something to protect the knees from somebody hurting themselves from that. The height of it is will be specified, the maximum height that you can have to make it ADA compliant. So there's a lot of regulations that someone need to know and have, but when they installing these types of equipment. A commercial building must have, especially if it's a new building going in, it will always be ADA compliant. Older buildings may not, because it may have been grandfathered before that time if it was built. But as the construction, new construction happens to a new older building, they will end up changing those requirements. Again, these are wall hung, types of wall hung sinks. One that fit in a corner, one that is raised back, one that's wheelchair accessible, but all these are different types. Okay, this particular one is usually used for sinks, but they do make it for regular laboratories where it has a gooseneck on it, where it gives you enough, where it sits up high enough where you can put your hands underneath. So this is a wheelchair accessible lavatory that outfitted with a special faucet that have long blade handles, so you can use the it's easier to open and close because it's long. It gives more leverage to actually turn it on. If let's say their hands or arms are weak, it takes a lot less effort to when it's a long handle like that. The leverage on it will allow them to either turn it on and turn it off just by using the palms of their hands or being able to push it. Now, there's requirements too for a toilet, the distance between a toilet and a sink. Matter of fact, a toilet is a requirement how close to a wall it can be. So again, if you notice this ADA, you can see the grab bars on the wall that must meet certain regulations too. So these wall bars are there so somebody can help themselves out of a wheelchair and be able to sit. And then, of course, around the sink, there must be a certain distance from a sink to a just to be able to get to a wheelchair underneath. So as well as space for wheelchairs around, ANSI also has a minimum ambulatory space requirement of 36 inches deep and 60 inches wide. So you can see that 60 inches from the wall to where the sink is at. And the toilet is going to be spaced a certain distance from the wall also. A vanity top laboratory is an under-counter laboratory that has one-piece wash basin and a countertop to the set on the top of a vanity cabinet. So basically, it's a one-piece top that sits right on top of the cabinet. Pedestal, again, it is wall mounted. The sink is not just sitting on a pedestal, it is wall mounted. But they put a pedestal underneath it also for support, but actually it hides the piping, the drain piping and the supply piping. So even though it's wall hung, the pedestal is more of decoration than anything. Now toilets, I'm sorry, not toilets, but bathtubs. Bathtubs, they can be either, the drains can be on the left side or the right side. So when you're ordering a toilet, I keep saying toilet, when you're ordering a tub, you make sure that you order the right one because it is not interchangeable. You cannot flip it around, cannot. So either you get a right-hand tub like this one or you get a left-hand tub. Whirlpool bathtubs basically has a pump inside that will generate water pressure to push water through the jets, and basically it recirculate the water from the tub. So have an inlet and multiple outlets, and it's connected to an electrical supply, but it has to have some way to be able to assess the hardware for the jets and for the pump if it ever goes out. And basically this is what it looks like. So codes require the installation of removable panels on Whirlpool tubs to assess the piping, the motor for the high pressure jets and other required components. Again, it's mandatory. You must be able to get to it. If there's no way to get to it, once it goes down, you have to tear the wall open to get to it, to repair it. Plus, the electrical parts have to be ground faulted. There's no way possible. It would be unsafe to actually have a system that is not protected for a ground fault. Here's another type. This is a pedestal freestanding bathtub, old style, but people still buy them because for the design of it. Usually it's pretty sizable, holds a lot of water, but they call these clawfoot bathtubs, and if you notice the piping, it's exposed. So the hot water and cold water is exposed. It comes from the floor. They use decorative piping, usually chrome, so it could look nice. But again, this is something that is just a design. This is a built-in tub. Many times built-in tubs can be Whirlpool, could be something that's used with jets in it also. If it is, it has to have a way to access all the hardware. Built-in shower modules. These are really popular because it saves a lot of time. It comes with the shower walls in the back, so you can actually have a shower and a bathtub together. It's a unit that comes in maybe 2 pieces, sometimes 4 pieces, but 2 pieces, the top portion of it can slide in on top of the bathtub. The bathtub is designed to fit that particular top. So again, these are modules. Here's a shower stall. Here's the difference between a shower stall and a bathtub combination. This basically is open to the bottom. You could put a shower curtain or shower doors there, so it's not designed to take baths, but is a quick only for showers. They make these for ADA compliant, or of course they make it without ADA compliant, so there will be no bars inside of it. So if you know that you need someone that need to have ADA, you order that way, and it would come with the hardware already attached in the right locations where it needs to go. Putting one with a some may have even a bench inside of it, so the person who might be that cannot stand for very long, they can sit and be able to still take a shower. Now there's a lot of different type of toilets, and we call them water closets. And back in the day, it was in a closet, but since they just kept the name, of course we call it toilets today. But the main thing is that it's used to get rid of waste, no matter what the design is. Now, the amount of water requirement for these toilets compared to old ones, old style toilets used a lot of water, 5, 6, 7 gallons of water each flush. New toilets use basically about 1.5 gallons. So they redesigned toilets to be able to be more efficient by using less water at the same time. So toilets can be certainly wheelchair accessible, where it doesn't have a tank on it and something that somebody can fall over and trip over or damage the toilet. So it would have the piping and securely fastened to coming through the wall, and the pipe that's fastened to the fixture. But of course the toilets would be anchored to the floor. And there's also wall hung, so there would be the support behind the wall to be able to support that that wall hung toilet. And this is the hardware you find on wall hung type of, again, it is secured, very detailed. You can see these heavy bolts that actually supporting the wall hung. Urinals basically is the same way, but the basic operation is the water is coming from something, either from a tank or it has a special flush valve. And that flush valve is designed to stay open for a certain amount of time, and you will end up adjusting the amount it will flow and stay on. And so commercial toilets, this adjustment. Matter of fact, even residential, it's a little bit different how you do it, but basically for residential, you adjusting the height of the water inside of the tank. And commercial ones, there's a diaphragm inside of a fixture that you're adjusting that will cause it to close and stop the valves, close the valve and stop the water flow. So when you flush a toilet, the water moves through the passages in the bowl under pressure of gravity. The flow of the water cleans the bowl. The water then moves the solid waste through a trap into the drain. So the toilet will have a built-in trap in that toilet, a built-in trap. And that trap basically used for two things: to keep waste from coming back, siphoning out. The second thing is to act as a barrier from the sewer, from the house. So it will keep gases and odors from coming from the piping back into the house. So a siphoning action removes the solid waste from the bowl. This siphoning action occurs when the water moves through the downward leg of the trap. The flowing mass of water, along with the head of water from the bowl, sweeps out the waste. This is a residential type bowl, and the flush valve, what you see in this upper portion here, this is the flush valve, and this is a flapper valve here. This flapper valve will be connected to this stem, and the stem is connected to the handle, which you really don't see very well, but it has a chain connected to this flush valve, on this flap valve. So this flap valve was raised up, allow the water to pour down into the bowl, rinsing off the walls and allowing it to build up a head, and cause it to siphoning out the water out of the trap. And then it will keep feeding water to fill the bowl back up. So this is basically filling this little tube here, filling this standpipe, and it actually will continue to add water back to the bowl. And so the washdown water closet is an inexpensive and a simple in construction. It is least expensive and efficient, the least efficient and the noises of all water closets. And so we see that this is feeding to the waste. You don't see all of it right now, but it has a rise of water, and then it would go back down to its regular height when it's completely full. Now you can see the trap here. Basically, it is inverted trap. This is the level of water. It stops right there. Let me see if I could. So it stops right there. So the level of water will always stop there. And so when the water levels start to increase and goes to a certain point, it actually causes siphoning action to overcome that height, and it will drain. But it will stop right there to keep any gas or water coming back in. So if you overfill it sometime, and too much water go through, it can siphon all the water out of it, and it would be basically empty, especially if it's not feeding more water back into it. So the siphoning action, you can see that it will occur in it. Here's another style. This is a wall mounted, and if you notice, the trap is down here. And this is the level. It would fill up and water would seek its own level. So once it stops at this point right there, that's where the water level always will be. It will never go higher than that unless you flush it. So during a flush period, it overfills the toilet. And it will add enough water fast enough to cause this level to rise to start the siphoning action. So the blowout water closet, which is usually a wall-hung bowl, is found only in commercial plumbing installation. So the blowout is again, it has this trap is down here instead of at the top, but it will pull the water out. Urinals is a washout also, and it actually has a trap too, and the trap is down here at the bottom. Very similar to the ones we just looked at. So urinals are commonly installed in public restrooms for men. To comply with ADA, urinals must have an elongated rim, meaning that it sticks out in a curve, so some type of curve faction, elongated, in other words, extended out. And must have the rim at least 17 inches above the floor. I'm sorry, I said at least, but a maximum of 17 inches above the floor. So somebody in a wheelchair can still be able to get up somewhat to be able to use the urinal. And anything above that is not code, and it cannot be considered ADA, even though it may be an ADA urinal. It has to be installed correctly. Most common types of siphon jet urinals is wall hung. Wall hung siphon jet urinals usually have a 2-inch built-in trap. They require a small diameter vent pipe. Okay, the trap is down here again, and it goes into the wall. This is a flush valve for urinals or toilets. They both work basically the same way. This is a flush-o-meter valve. That's a brand name. And it is a flushing device that is connected directly to the water supply. And the water supply would be at this point right here, coming in, going through the valve. And inside of this valve would be a diaphragm, some other things. So when you push the handle down or up, it actually will reset that diaphragm, then the pressure as it's flowing through will build up to close it back down again. And there's adjustment, how much water would come through, how fast would be at this point right here. There's a cap usually there where you can make adjustments. Now, waterless urinals, it's a little bit different. It uses a cartridge filter containing a liquid seal rather than water to remove waste and odor. Waterless urinals are installed in locations where access to water supply is difficult or when required for purpose of water conservation. So where you find this is sometime on the side of highways where you see rest stops. And so they could not get water there or remote areas, so they may put one of these in. It would still go out a drain. Bidet, these looks like toilets, but they're not. So a bidet, you see more and more of this in more high-end homes. Basically, it's something that, let me just read it. They are used for personal hygiene in bathing the external genitals and posterior parts of the body. So in other words, it cleans your backside. So bidets are fitted with cold and hot water faucets so that the user can regulate the water temperature and the rate of flow. So what you see there, hot water and cold water valve. So when you flush it, it will allow water to spray up and it would drain down. And it just, well, it's personal hygiene. And it's, if you got the space, so it would be usually next to your toilet. So you have a toilet and you have a bidet. In certain countries, that's all, you will see that everywhere. I've been to if you go to Europe, you will certainly see it. And first time I seen a bidet, went to a hotel, and I was wondering why they had to until I found out what it was used for. Didn't know. Water conservation. Most practical ways to prevent water shortage is to conserve water by using less. Many types of fixtures are available to reduce water use in showers and sinks, and by putting some type of restrictor in the faucet to restrict how much water comes out. However, with technology, it adds other things to build up the velocity so it feels like a lot of water coming out even though it's not. Many times they have aerators that add air bubbles to it. It looks like a full stream, but the amount of water that is actually receiving would be less. So all faucets are designed to restrict the water flow and have a certain GPM, gallons per minute, that you would get. Other types of alternative controls include foot operated sinks. Of course, there's the motion detectors. So you remove your hands and water turns off automatically to keep from sinks running continuously. So there's many different ways to be able to control and to conserve water usage. So when selecting water sources for landscaping and consider drip irrigation. The drip irrigation is basically putting water exactly where your plants are at. And instead of spraying water out that can evaporate or watering parts that you don't need to have watered, drip irrigation is actually putting it right there. So if you have a garden, flower beds and things like that, that is certainly a good way to do it. Matter of fact, some plants do not like water on its leaves. It can develop mold and on the leaves as it's growing. So again, appliances are becoming more and more efficient in use of both electrical and water consumption. Another part that is part of the waste system is disposal, food waste disposals. It's mechanical, it's a motor-driven device that got blades that would chop up the food to make it smaller. It's basically is what they call a macerator. It actually chops up the food in smalls so it can go down a drain so you don't have to put it in the trash. Other things to food waste disposals. When installing a food waste disposal in a double sink, you must use a directional T with an internal baffle. Uh, this T, so you're not passing water on from the into one that can back up and go into the other sink. So it helps directs the flows, that baffle. Dishwashers is another device that's used to wash dishes. These days, dishwashers do not use a lot of water. Matter of fact, it's go through the wash cycle. It go through a quick rinse. Use high velocity pumps and jets to increase the water pressure and the flow of the water inside of it to wash the dishes without using a lot of water. So new dishwashers don't use a lot of energy, and it's designed that way. Based on the Department of Energy, they set regulations on the consumption of energy and natural resources. Another thing that they would put on dishwashers for the drain we call the vacuum breaker. Some codes require a vacuum breaker on for air gap. There's other ways to do it too. You can actually, the way you pipe the drain line can actually cause it from siphoning. Basically, that's the whole purpose of this vacuum breaker, to keep from siphoning the water out of the dishwasher. And this is the second way to do it. Instead of using the vacuum breaker, they can put this loop in the drain line. And so in other words, you go high and drop back down to go into the drain. And so again, this is inverted trap. Laundry sinks is another type of laboratory, and it's designed to hold a lot of water. You use it for cleaning things. A lot of times it's in your laundry room that where your washer would drain into. However, that's not the main purpose of it. It's really for cleaning things. Years ago, they used to use laundry tubs to actually wash your clothes in. But these days, if you got things you're working in the house, you don't want to mess up your kitchen sink, or if your bathroom sink is too small, you can always take it to your laundry sink because it's very deep, and it can be used to wash things that's large without spilling water on the floor and on the countertops and things. Now, this is service sinks. It's very similar to laundry sink. A service sink is a sink that is used in commercial buildings in a janitorial closet. The mop sink is just for that. It's just basically is attached to the floor, and the mop sink is where they can rinse out the mops, wring out the water, pour your wastewater from your mop bucket into. So these are utility sinks, another type of utility sinks that is used for the purpose in commercial buildings. Usually the drain in it, the very large drain compared to like a kitchen sink, they're going to be at least 2 inches in diameter, the drain in these. So, and they have a clean out too, so you'll be able to, if it clogs up for any reason, you could be able to clean it out. Again, if washing out paint brushes and things, that a service sink is used for that. Floor drains is another type of drain that you find. It is actually even with the floor, and you find them in basements or ceramic floors. Large bathrooms will have a floor drain in, so you'll be able to drain away if there's a flood in the room, that water have a place to go. These are like water coolers. Water coolers is commercial buildings. Um, it would have some type of mechanical refrigeration system that actually would chill the water down to make it pleasant when, especially on hot days, that you need to um, uh, get water. These days, they're making water coolers that are um, that filtration system in it to actually bring the water to better quality than this regular tap water. Um, the water coolers, again, it has a fountain on it, and the fountain is what we call a bubbler, and that bubbler is regulated to have a certain stream so it doesn't shoot too high or come out too low. And so again, that bubbler is there when you press the button, allow you to have a, a smooth stream of water coming out. So local building codes, and there's a lot of building codes when it comes to plumbing, just like electrical, but because of health and safety, you say, well, it's just water. Getting rid of waste is a health and safety issue, and how we pipe a drain is important. How we pipe in toilets, showers, anything that has water coming into any fixture should have a drain on it to get rid of the waste. And there are specific codes of everything tie into the piping, the size of it, the type of fittings to use to make sure that you are getting rid of the water correctly. Matter of fact, even the pitch of the pipe, the direction is going, and the angle that it is at matters. So we're going to talk about some of the terms. We talked about ADA compliant already. We know what that is dealing with the American with Disability Act that came into law in 1990. We know ANSI is. We know what bathtubs are, faucets. Fiberglass is basically spawn filaments of glass woven into yarn. They used to build a lot of things because they use some type of epoxy resin to take those fibers, and it makes those fibers extremely strong with that resin, and it's very durable. So the nice thing about fiberglass is that you can mold it into any shape. And so that's why they can make bathtubs out of it, wall coverings. Matter of fact, even fixtures can be made out of fiberglass. So again, that epoxy that is used actually harden that fiberglass and allow it to be very durable. A flange is a rim on the end of a length of pipe that provides a connection point to another length of pipe. And so usually a flange have two sides to it. The flange are flat. The flange are usually bolted together somehow. And flanges are usually used on very large pipes because to keep from threading the pipe, they will put flanges on it. They will weld a flange on it. And so they will have pipe fitters who actually will deal with that type of piping. Flood level rim. That's the edge of a basin, bowl, or fixture will seek its level once the water reaches that point. Flush valves are used on water closets and urinals to be able to bring water into the bowl. A flush-o-meter valve, it's a brand name, but it's a flush valve. Laundry trays. Basically, is a fixed tub on legs. We call them laundry sinks. A lavatory, any type of basin designed for installation for bathrooms or other locations. Lavatories, again, is what you use. It could be a wall mounted, it could be a pedestal, but it is used for washing your hands and face and things like that. Plumbing fixtures is any device that takes water and drains water away. A fixture, plumbing fixture. A water cooler is a fixture because water comes into it and it goes down the drain, whatever it's not drinking. Porcelain enamel is the coating that fits over porcelain to make it shiny, to make it stain proof. That porcelain finish is a very strong finish. And so a lot of times they put that porcelain finish even over cast iron. So it might be a cast iron bathtub. You don't see that very often, but you can still buy cast iron bathtubs because it's extremely durable, and they will put an enamel finish on it. Sinks, of course, a sink is like a basin. Terrazzo. Terrazzo is a type of floor surface, and it is an extremely durable surface. And the contractors who work on terrazzo floors, they are highly trained in taking basically like aggregate, like rocks, and it could be colored rocks. It could be other materials, but they mix it with a solution like epoxy with like grout, and they will grind it down to a certain height to take any imperfections out, and they will polish it. And so they make terrazzo floors and showers and things like that because it's waterproof, it's durable, it lasts forever. You see a terrazzo floor, it will last as long as the building will last. So it's a type of floor surface commonly used for showers and other plumbing fixtures, but also just plain floors in commercial buildings like schools and hospitals, airports. It's made by pouring in place a precast, a mixture of small pieces of marble, or rocks, stone, colored, could be glass, and it basically is a mortar set. And it's when hardened, the surface can be ground, and it will be ground down and polished smooth, although it may be left slightly rough to create a non-slip surface. But usually you find terrazzo floors ground down and polished. Vent pipe is the pipe that leads out through the building, through the roof, and it's always higher than your highest plumbing fixture. And the purpose of it to allow the plumbing system to be in atmospheric pressure and to keep from having siphoning of water out of your traps and things. So a pipe installed to provide a flow of air to and from the drainage system, or to provide a circulation of air within such a system to provide trap seals from stifling and back pressure. Matter of fact, you always can tell if it's an extremely windy day outdoors. If you look at your toilet and you see the water going up and down, that's because that vent pipe outdoors is trying to balance the pressure from indoors to outdoors, and it will cause it to move back and forth sometime. On a normal day, you would never see it, the water moving somewhat. Virtuous china is a durable ceramic material, usually consisting of fine clay materials, and it is often a mixture of quartz, feldspar, silica, and other materials. The mixture is heated to a temperature of between 2,200 degrees to 2,600 degrees. Basically, it's porcelain. It's just actually like making a vase, and they heat it to bound all the materials together, and then they would the finish on it, based on the materials they put on the outside of it, will give an extremely shiny, non-porous finish, and it looks good. The same way they make, let's say, vases and things that's made out of clay is the same process. Waste pipe is a pipe in the plumbing system that carries only wastewater and sewage. Okay, we got some questions we're going to go through, and let's take a look. Another name for porcelain, which is often used in more expensive fixtures, is blank. Again, another name for porcelain, which is often used in more expensive Fixtures is, and because it is used on more expensive fixtures to give a very beautiful finish, it is the diversified china, and it's baked on a finish, granted high temperatures, and then with a very shiny finish on it. And it's a very beautiful finished product, but it's very durable at the same time. When installing built-in showers, plumbing codes typically require the installation of blank. Is it a safety pan under the installation? Glades, towels inside of the shower, mounting frames under the floor, and enamel steel in the walls. Again, this is talking about built-in showers, And so if it's a built-in shower, it's done a little bit different than a shower like a molded or ones that you can build from scratch. It is a safety pan underneath the installation. And the safety pan is using some type of finish that will set up a barrier so it doesn't get down to the subfloor, which can cause it to rot out the wood underneath the floor. So that safety pan underneath the floor. So in other words, you build on top of it. Sometimes it may be just a membrane that is used as that safety pan. That membrane, it could be like a rubber sleeve that line the shape of the pan, so again, moisture will not penetrate it. Companion fixtures to water closets that are used for personal hygiene are called is bidets. A bidet. Bidet is it looks like a toilet. It's usually next to a toilet, but it is for personal hygiene. A device that prevents waste from bagging up into the dishwasher is called. There's an internal baffle, air gap assembly, directional T, discharge pipe. Air gap assembly. Sometimes they call it external air vent. A plumbing fixture that is fitted with connections for cold and hot water and a drain connection, and which has one or two extra deep basins is called blank. Is it a floor sink, mop basin, a bidet, or a laundry tray? And if it's a plumbing fixture that have hot and cold water and a drain, it is a laundry tray, and which we may call a laundry sink.